Okay, what's going on? I'm okay. How you doing? You got a shot? Hey, hey. Might not be the same thing. But on this side, she could be. Yeah. Oh, Mike. They might tell us to go to somebody else. You don't mind. What's going on?
Good evening, everybody. I would like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular board meeting of Muskegon Heights Public School Academy System, 2441 Stanford Street, Muskegon Heights, Michigan. Called to order by myself, Antoinette Robinson, at 6:05 p.m. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It's been a long week. Last week, our district board voted to remove me from this body because the system board, under my leadership for less than 2 weeks, was unable to comply with their request to produce a corrective action plan for this school district. One of the reasons we have no corrective action plan for the school district is because New Paradigm for Education, the company we were pushed to use to manage operations of this school district, has refused in some ways to share our district data. This board has no idea, which we will have a report tonight on finances. So I don't want to mislead anyone. But it's been a time getting financial records in front of us, and transparency in communication has not been good. What our students' true count is, what our total staffing looks like. It's worth mentioning that this board has gotten more detail about what's happening in our schools from teachers and staff that are in this room that we have from the company that is supposed to be working at our direction. One of the biggest reasons we needed a corrective action plan in the first place is because New Paradigm for Education has been doing a not so good job in our eyes managing the school district since the start of the year. A lot of things that they have promised have not come to be. Our money, shutting us out of our role as district managers sitting here. And it is our perception that they talk with our authorizing board members readily, but have boldly skipped on meetings on us. One of the biggest reasons our schools are continuing to fail is that our authorizer appoints every charter board member you see sitting here before you. And it is decided to outsource the job of managing this school district to New Paradigm for Education, which has ties with, our authorizing board's attorney. So there's a lot of moving pieces here that are just not in good taste for us. Instead of demanding accountability from New Paradigm, our authorizing board moved, we believe inappropriately, to remove me because in less than 2 weeks as chair, I somehow was responsible for all of the failings of this school district. Then they moved again inappropriately to appoint Mrs. Hunt, no fault of her own. I think they were hoping I'd probably be ashamed and run away, but this is so important for me with the kids and our community. I live here, grew up here, so this is very, very personal for me. What our authorizing board needs to understand is that I did not volunteer for this board for myself. I volunteered for this board to help the kids in our community. But this isn't about me. This is about all of you. And it's about our future together in Muskegon Heights. There is an operating agreement between our two boards. It states clearly the process for adding and removing members from All right, I now move to, for the approval of our meeting minutes.
I move to approve the minutes. Second. So how are we doing the vote? Are we taking Dr. Hunt's vote for this? Yeah.
We'll be seating Dr. Hunt at our next regular scheduled board meeting.
Okay.
Robinson,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Fox, yes. Slater,
This action is invalid because it was not taken by proper, authorized, and appointed board members, so I abstain.
I didn't hear, could you speak it?
she abstained.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve.
Second.
Robinson,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Fox, yes. Abstain. Slater.
Abstain.
That's why I said it.
I'll now move to our first action item, confirmation of actions taken by our district's attorney to protect the integrity of the system board. I move that the board of directors confirm the confirmation of actions taken by the district's attorney to protect the integrity of the system board. Eric, would you like to speak on that?
Yes. As you are likely aware, recently the district board.
Do you want it?
No, give him a mic.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
As you're all aware, recently the district board undertook to appoint a board member, the Honorable Dr. Hunt, and also to remove the board's president. In 2021, August 10th of 2021, as the system changed, the district board enacted a second amended resolution in order to set forth, as is required by the revised school code, the method for appointing and removing board members. Unfortunately, in appointing Dr. Hunt and in removing Ms. Robinson, the district board did not follow the appropriate steps as outlined in the second amended resolution. Obviously, those types of actions not only impact this board, but the students, the parents, and community. With no disrespect intended to the district board, there is a reason that the legislature felt so strongly that there be an orderly method for appointing and removing board members, that it required that the Board of Education, the District Board of Education, put that in writing in a resolution and pass that resolution. Unfortunately, they chose not to follow that particular methodology. On behalf of the Board of Education, today I filed with the Muskegon Circuit Court a action on behalf of the District Board of Directors, or I'm sorry, the System Board of Directors, and Ms. Antoinette Robinson, seeking a emergency temporary restraining order. Also, I asked for both preliminary and permanent injunctive relief to bar those types of activities in the future. I have also filed, as part of this, several other claims, including claims for retaliation, as it does appear that the removal of Dr. or Ms. Robinson was tied to her activity in investigating and calling out what appeared to be fraud and abuse, violations of policy, et cetera, within this public school academy. Lastly, I also filed a Section 1983 claim for a violation of Ms. Robinson's civil rights, including due process and her liberty interest in her good name. I ask that the board confirm the actions taken on behalf of the board and Ms. Robinson. I will point out that we will be jointly representing the board and Ms. Robinson because it is a stronger case with Ms. Robinson as part of the lawsuit. I will not be charging the PSA system board for any work on behalf of Ms. Robinson. Herself, I will only charge for that which assists this board of education. The board of directors, I'm sorry.
Okay, I move that the board of directors confirm the confirmation of actions taken by the district's attorney to protect the integrity of the system board.
Let's go.
Second. Robinson.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Fox, yes. Slater. Let's just, say this on the record that you were for Mr. Delaporte, this lawyer right here. You were for this lawyer right here, right? When we voted for him? You were with Mr. Eric, right? I was just making sure we had that on the record. Go ahead. I mean, if you haven't voted yes or no in about 2 or 3 weeks, you're not even. But when you was the president, you did. All right, let's go.
I'll move on to our next action item, which is our presentation and acceptance of the 2021-2022 financial audit by auditor.
We got together. Got a second. So,
Yep.
I second. Robinson.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Slater. The audit. Fox, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Peter Huffman, and I represent Grayville Huffman, the firm of certified public accountants that conducted the audit for the year ended June 30th, 2022. And I'm here to talk about your audit report and answer any questions you may have. And I thought I could touch upon some highlights if I may. And I will direct you to some of the pages within the document itself. And then we can discuss what the results of the audit process were, if that works for you, or I can just answer questions. I'm gonna take over this spot so I can lay this down and look through it. So A very good place to look for a synopsis of the results of the audit process is at the very back of the audit. So I'm going to take you there first. And I will direct you to a specific page. But what I wanted to point out is ultimately, the audit gets submitted to the Michigan Department of Education as well as the federal government. There is a federal audit clearinghouse. So when you are required to have a single audit, so an audit of your financial statements, and we provide that audit process in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards. When we apply government auditing standards, we have a report on your financial statements, a report on your internal controls over financial reporting, as well as a report on your compliance with federal grant requirements. And that summary of those three reports is at the back of your audit report. So if you turn with me, it's not at the very back, but very close to it. At the top of page 50, does it say schedule of findings and questioned costs? Perfect, that's what I would like you to take a look at. So page 50, schedule of findings and questioned costs. So this summary is submitted to the federal government as well as each federal grant that you received and the amount of each federal grant that you received. And at the top of this page, you will see it says financial statements, type of audit report issued, and it says unmodified. And that is that we have provided an audit, or we have provided an opinion on your financial statements that has states that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position, results of operations of the governmental activities, each major fund, the aggregate remaining funds in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So you're following the rules of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board as required, and the financial statements presented follow those rules. So it's an unmodified opinion. And we'll take a look at some of the numbers here shortly. Following that opinion are the financial statements. So that opinion is on page 1 of the financial statements, and it's 2.5 pages long. So I tried to summarize it saying that you have your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. In addition to that opinion, we provide an opinion that's summarized on page 50 on your system of internal controls over financial reporting. So the system that you use for your accounting process in order to prepare these financial statements. And within that opinion on page 43 of this document, we have identified a material weakness in your system of internal controls, and that is the lack of segregation of duties in the accounting function for the year ended 6/30/2022. That is that one individual was performing many of the activities in the accounting process without adequate supervision or secondary approval and review. And so we brought that to your attention, and as well on this document, you can see we have a check box where it says internal controls on page 50. Internal controls over financial reporting was a material weakness identified. Yes, it was, and it is at the bottom of page 50 where we describe what that issue was with internal controls for the year ended 6/30/2022. And what we propose or suggest that you do is that you look at the process, policies and procedures, and provide for adequate segregation of duties. Now, you currently have an entirely different process for paying the bills, paying, staff or contract folks, as well as for recording the revenues and receivables. We didn't look at what's occurring currently. This is as of 6/30/2022. So we provide an unmodified opinion on your financial statements, but we identified a material weakness with your system of internal controls over financial reporting. And then as we work our way down page 50, we have federal awards identified there, and it says, were there material weaknesses identified? And we said, no, we did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in your compliance with federal requirements, which is good. Also, were we required to bring any audit findings under the guidance of CFR 5200, 516A? No, we were not. We did identify, though, in our opinion on your compliance, on page 45, just an issue, and that relates to the dollar balance in your food service fund at the end of 2022. It's in excess of the allowable balance per federal guidance. And I believe what occurred was there was an attempt to bring that balance down by purchasing additional equipment for the food service activity, but the purchases were not received before the end of the year. But it's something to look at. I have a number of clients that have this finding because of the additional funding received due to COVID. And then the federal government said, well, you can only have 90 days worth of cash, and you have over 90 days worth of cash in your food service fund. So it's not a huge deal, but it's something that you'll want to take care of in the next year. The most important thing identified really was that internal controls over segregation of duties, internal controls issue that you want to make sure that your new group is taken care of. And it's a whole different process, is my understanding, currently. So it's something worthy of taking a look at. And there was a requirement to provide responses of what was going to occur to address these items. And those responses are provided on the following page. So this entire package gets submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, Michigan Department of Education, and they look to see, are these, adequate responses. I've been in communications with other clients when the federal government contacts them and has a question or something of that nature. To my knowledge, there haven't been any questions at this point to the response. So page 50 is a nice summary, but a lot of financial information is also included in your audit, and I thought we should take a look at some of that information. So I'm going to ask you to turn with me just back a couple pages, and if you would, take a look at page 48. This is a total of your federal financial assistance received in fiscal year 2022, and each grant for which you received federal financial assistance is identified above and on the previous page. And you were required to have what I refer to as a single audit versus just a financial audit, because you received over $750,000 of federal financial assistance. So here, if you look one column from the left, so the second one in, that's the expenditures of all those various grants that you received. Approximately $3.25 million. And on page 45 is our opinion that I touched upon on your federal grant compliance requirements. And on page 43 is our report on your system of internal controls over financial reporting. And I'll ask you to go all the way to the front of the document to page 1. So page 1 is our report on the financial statements themselves. And it's multiple pages long, and I was trying to summarize the second paragraph that's provided at the top of page 1 that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position, results of operations of the governmental activities, each major fund, as well as the aggregate funds in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And I'm summarizing it, but the opinion in total is 2.5 pages long. I just want to bring that to your attention to take a read through there as time allows. Now, following our opinion on the financial statements at the front of the audit report is the management's discussion and analysis. That begins on page 5. And this provides a high-level perspective of where did you end this year versus how did it look last year? What were the results of operations this year versus last year? And it's all presented, at least the summary schedules are presented on the full accrual basis of accounting, which is a business perspective, where we show all of your assets, all of your liabilities with the difference between assets, liabilities, deferred inflows, deferred outflows, reported as net position. And I would just point out, if you took a look at page 7, this is where that very summarized information, full accrual basis of accounting is presented. And what I wanted to point out here is, and I'll show you where these actual financial statements are, this is looking at all your assets and all your liabilities. Well, a big chunk of your liabilities are related to the Michigan and public MHhs pension plan for those employees that were employees in the district. Well, they won't be here this year. And therefore, those items will go away, and they are a big portion of the reason there is a deficit reported in unrestricted net position in the top table. There is a large portion of your liabilities related to the pension, and the deferred inflows and outflows are a big portion. So I'd rather direct your attention. I want you to understand what's here. And at the bottom of page 7 are those dollars coming in and going out. But realize when you buy a piece of equipment, it's being capitalized and depreciated. And when you are operating throughout the year, you're operating on a modified accrual basis of accounting, and you're considering more what's going on with my general fund. This is all funds, all assets, all liabilities. So let's take a look at just your general fund and the funds that you know about as far as how they are operating. So I'm just going to show you where some of the information is, as I know you are a newer board. On page 11, this is that full accrual perspective. All of your governmental assets, liabilities, deferred inflows, deferred outflows, and net position. This is summarized on the pages we just looked at, page 7. But when we want to actually see the detail, we want to take a look at page 14. Here is a picture of your general fund, how you ended up the year ended 6/30/2022. Your assets, your liabilities, you see you have a deferred inflow of resources. That represents grant funding that wasn't drawn within 60 days of year end that'll be recognized in 2023. And any fund balance of $805,000 for your general fund and $450,000 for your food service fund. And then we have your non-major governmental funds. I believe there are some student activities and other things that occur there, and those are presented in detail in the back of the report. On page 15, we'll go to page 16. On page 16, this is a picture of where did the dollars come from and where did they go to. And this is, when we're talking about the general fund, food service, this is how you operate throughout the year. That big picture full accrual is really taking a look at kind of a point in time at the end of the year. Looking at it from a business perspective, this is looking at it from a governmental entity perspective. And as you turn with me, if you would, I'm going to ask you to turn back to page 37. This shows the dollars that came in and went out, but also shows what was budgeted for these operations for the year. And this is your general fund. There's also a budget and actual statement for your food service fund. But this just provides you with Where did you expect to end up? And you expected it to end up on page 37 with a change in fund balance, approximately break even. And your financial statements show a loss of $200,000. Now keep in mind, and that's why I pointed it out, you have grant funding that was expended in 2022, not drawn until 2023, that will make up some of that difference between the loss and the break-even perspective. You can see your original budget expected almost a $300,000 loss. Amended budget, break even, ended up at $200,000 reduction in fund balance. Now, within this document are other financial statements for those non-major funds. If you take a look at page 38, this shows you a budget and actual for your food service fund. And when we are looking at these fund financial statements, realize if you buy a new stove, a new refrigeration system that's $10,000 or whatever for a cooler, that would show up as an expenditure when it's purchased here. And in those front financial statements we were talking about, it would not show up as an expenditure until it got depreciated over its life. So that's really the difference between that full accrual and modified accrual. It's really to the extent that you have long-term liabilities or long-term assets that are being amortized over their life. Between these budget and actual statements and the front statements we were looking at, the fund financial statements for the general fund and food service, are a lot of notes to the financial statements. Talk about when there's an option in accounting, which option did you choose? Or there's also schedules of how many dollars did we put into capital this year? How did our borrowing occur this year, where you had a state aid note, and then it matured and you had another one. And that type of detail is provided in the notes between the very front of the report and when we get back to about page 38. Are there questions I can answer about the audit process or the report itself? I can tell you when I first arrived on the scene, I was pretty concerned, and just because so many changes had occurred as far as the staffing was no longer here, and makes it difficult to ask questions and have an answer that actually is accurate. But I worked very, and me and my staff, we worked quite diligently with Miss Hodge here, and she provided, from my perspective, great information and a heroic effort to get us through that process. So we appreciate the efforts put forth by the staff that you had available, and the audit process was not everybody was fully aware of everything. So we turned around the corner here or there and saw something and had to make some adjustments. And within the letter that we provided with the audit, we identified the journal entries that were necessary during the audit process. There were two key things that occurred. One was accounts payable or accrued, things of that nature. And it was realized that there was a payroll accrual missing, which is of the adjustments. That's a large extent of those adjustments. So staff gets paid through August, July, under contract, and that needs to be accrued back to the year in which they earned that wages. And so when it was realized that that was missing and that accounts payable accruals that were manually posted in the prior year had not been correctly reversed by that prior group or whoever, that's the reason that resulted in primarily those audit adjustments. So the payroll accrual and then reversing of the prior year's accounts payable. So that ends up impacting the federal grant dollars. So then that leads on and on and on and on. But other than that, the adjustments identified, the audit process went, I think, quite well from the perspective of a whole new group walking in and trying to work through that process.
So the road ahead is not as dismal as you anticipated initially.
Right. When I first came in, and with staff, I was just concerned because everyone was new and it was, we're auditing old. These folks came in multiple months after that old occurred. But they were able to pull together the information and to work with MM1 or the labor providers and the ISD and other than these adjustments that were just not expected, it was in good shape.
So moving forward, based on your recommendations and your opinions, we'll have a clear picture as to those kind of due diligences that we need to have in place in order to correct any prior inadequacies.
Right. I think what you need to do as a board, and I've been on the board of a school before, in fact. I would just want to make sure that you had an understanding of that there is a system of controls in place and being utilized, and that will help eliminate that finding going forward. And that's something I can't really provide an opinion on because I'm auditing June 30th, not after your new group came in, but they worked, I would just point out that they worked very hard to make this happen.
One last question. So the separation of duties,
Yes.
not having a person do multiple duties, is a key area of concern.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
we need to put a procedural, some procedure in place for that. And then we need to make certain that the powers to be have notification of that change.
Well, I think I would just ask the folks that are working for you, have you addressed this? And there is a response to the finding, and I think I would think that I haven't audited any of that, but my thought is they are large enough that they have multiple people involved. So if one person is proposing some type of an adjustment, a secondary person is reviewing it, like a CFO versus a business manager, where the operation here before was so limited in the number of staff and an understanding of the accounting as well by multiple staff that ultimately you have one person doing many things without a lot of oversight. So I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Are there other questions I can answer? Yes.
The finding of the food service.
Yes.
So this is the second year.
Yes.
So we found that same type of finding.
Yes.
And last year, some of the things that they were supposed to do with the food service, with the purchase equipment.
Yes.
If I heard you right, you said that wasn't purchased until.
No, this is my understanding. I actually saw some of the invoices, but I haven't looked at it in the last, month. There were purchases of equipment. The equipment didn't arrive in time to be recorded in last year. So I believe there was some grills or what have you that were purchased, and they just didn't arrive in time to get recorded as an expenditure in 2022. So it may very well have already worked its way out, but I don't know that. I don't look after 6:30.
I understand that. What I was thinking is that I myself went to each building to try to verify the equipment that they were supposed to have purchased. Right after they did the audit, we did the audit in 2021.
Okay, sure.
End of the year audit. And it must have been months after that those things, they said some of the schools did have the salad bar, the grills and things like that. So I'm kind of confused that when you say that.
Well, I don't know that it all arrived. I think there were some substantial items, maybe $10,000 item or more than one that hadn't arrived as of the end of the year. Now, in addition, the federal government was providing additional funding, so you have too much money and then they start giving you even more. So I don't know the details behind that, but I think it's something easily addressed from just taking a look at what's the remainder of the year, what do we have in our budget, what do we need to do to move that balance down to an acceptable level for the federal government.
Last year was around $1 million. I think, if I read my old
Sure.
paperwork, and I just wanted to mention why, we need to try to make sure that that don't continue to happen.
Sure.
That, and it's still coming from the same area.
Yes, so if you take a look at page 38 of the audit, you'll see that the food service fund actually expended $365,000 more than it brought in, yet you still were unable to spend enough. So definitely things were purchased, and we looked at invoices for capital items that were put in place, such as salad bars or grills, and the food service equipment is quite expensive, so. But as you can see, there was an attempt to get there, it just didn't get you there, but I think you're close. Are there other questions that I can try and address about the audit process or the report itself?
You indicated that, with the internal control, there was a response to that.
Yes.
And so, from your perspective, I know you haven't done an audit for this year, but from your perspective, from the response that you got from that, do you believe that to be adequate or?
Right, so I can tell you right in our opinion on the findings, there actually our opinion that talks about this finding, we say we don't audit that response.
Okay.
You really can't until
Right.
this year would be audited, so it specifically says they've provided a response and we have not audited it. Now, I can tell you this, that I've worked with a number of governmental entities, that's all we do, governmental and not-for-profit audits and accounting and so forth. And when there's a concern with the response, typically the state or the federal government will be contacting you. So that might give you a little bit of assurance that if you haven't been contacted, they're feeling good about what you have seen. But I have seen where people were contacted and they said, we need to, what are you going to do to make sure this gets done? Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Peter Hefner. My name's on each of those opinions. My phone number's on there. If you have questions or comments, you can feel free to contact me. And I'm going to return the mic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda.
Election of officers.
Doing the election of officers. Okay. Next up on our agenda is the election of officers. I move to appoint the following individuals as officers for the Muskegon Heights Public School Academy System Board of Directors. Mr. Joe Warren is Vice President, Vice Chairperson. Mr. David Fox as Treasurer. Ms. Leslie Kitchen Slater as Secretary. And having been previously elected and now reconfirm myself as President and Chairperson. So be it resolved that the nominations for office of President be closed. Prior to, I'm sorry. I'm gonna do nominations are now in order for office of board president.
Prior to you doing that, I would like to, indicate that I will decline office of, any office at this time, as I believe this action is invalid because it was not taken by a proper authorized and appointed board member, so I will be declining, the office of secretary.
I nominate, Antoinette Robinson for president. Yeah. Robinson,
Yes.
Warren. Yes. Fox, yes. Slater. You gotta do that now.
So be it that Warren moved, Fox, you second. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We will now move to vice president. Nominations are now in order for office of board vice president. I move to nominate Mr. Joe Warren for office of vice president.
Robinson.
Yes.
Wait. I second.
You second? Okay, Fox second.
Is there any other nominations? Robinson.
Yes.
Warren. Yes. Fox, yes. Slater.
I abstain.
Mr. Warren was declared Board of Education Vice President. I'm sorry. TSA Board Vice President. We'll move on to Secretary. Nominations are now in order. Treasurer next. I'm sorry, I'll move down to Treasurer. Nominations are now in order for the office of Board Treasurer. I would like to move to nominate Mr. David Fox for the office of Treasurer position.
I second. Robinson.
Yes.
Warren. Yes. Fox, yes. Slater.
I abstain.
I'll move that Mr. Fox is declared Board Treasurer. We'll now do nominations for Secretary. Nominations are now in order for office of Board Secretary.
Guess it gotta be me.
May I move to nominate Ms. Kitchen Slater for Board Secretary?
I decline.
I do.
All right, so our 2022-23, Antoinette Robinson was declared board president. Mr. Joe Warren was declared as board vice president. Mr. David Fox was declared as board treasurer. And our secretary position remains open. That will conclude our action items for tonight. I will like to move on to our discussion items. First one is our partnership agreement meeting with the Michigan Department of Education. Before we do that, I had noticed a Marine in the building. I would like to acknowledge him and thank him for his service, if he is still in the building.
Thank you.
On November the 2nd, it was a partnership meeting with Michigan Department of Education, and it was Bill Pearson on site, Dana Holman, Randy Lindquist. Well, Bill Pearson is the Deputy Superintendent to the State Superintendent. Kimberly Davis works with the Partnership Agreement Department. Dana Holman works with the Partnership Agreement Department. And John Lewis was on site. Also, Mrs. Slater was on site, and Gloria Chapman. Gloria Chapman works with the Partnership Agreement also. Inside the binder, that first section is the presentation that Michigan Department of Education asked us to put together. It was actually outlined by Kimberly Davis, who's assigned to Muskegon Heights. What the team did that I named, they actually took a tour of each school. In addition to the tour, they also visited a couple of classrooms and looked at some data. Through the report, it talks about various areas of finance, talent, data. It also talked about graduation rate and data from the previous year. This was called an informal evaluation of the partnership agreement. So this was based on last year's information. So Dana Holman actually worked with us to put this together, to present. And I know it's kind of a thick pack, but I put it together based on when I received that I knew I was gonna be presenting this. It also has a section in there on special education and NWEA, reading, attendance. And that meeting basically took place from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Muskegon Heights would probably more than likely be up again for the partnership agreement. This year ends the partnership agreement. The partnership agreement is based upon district's graduation rate. And looking at previous year graduation rate, they did mention it's an opportunity that Muskegon Heights might receive a partnership agreement. But they officially will let schools know within the new year in January if they should apply or if the partnership agreement should be on their radar to get ready to. And of course, with the partnership agreement comes some grant dollars also.
What was the date of this meeting?
November the 2nd.
So today is the 21st. We're supposed to be able to look through all this in 5-10 minutes.
No, I received the agenda yesterday at about 4 and wasn't aware that what was going to be on the agenda. So I put together as much as I can to prepare for the meeting. And no, I wouldn't expect you to look at this for 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, that's a pretty big packet. So the meeting was November 2nd. Was there any board members there?
Mrs. Slater was there. They actually asked for the PSA board president to be present and also the Board of Ed president to be present.
So
John Lewis was actually present.
So this meeting happened, which I was aware that it happened, but you said November 2nd, we haven't received anything regarding that meeting until now. So that's clearly an issue because I can't read through all this in this short amount of time. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking for. So can you kind of like tell us exactly what this is about and why weren't we told by the board representative that was there after the meeting?
I can tell you what this is.
As far as being told, I sent an email to all of you.
No, I said that I was told. I'm saying why weren't we told about the information after the meeting?
As I was saying, I explained to you all that I had attended this meeting and would be providing information. The next board meeting, special board meeting that you all held, I indicated that this needed to be on the agenda. I actually talked to Dr. Weatherspoon about this information, and he indicated that he would like me to provide this information. And with the special meetings that we were having, we were involved in CAP discussions. So that is the reason why it was not put on the agenda. And then after that, you all removed me from office, so.
All right, so a couple points. 21, we never received the information, long story short. Second point is you said we were in CAP discussions at those meetings. We were trying to be in CAP discussions, but New Paradigm wasn't here. And our board president was removed, supposedly, for not having the CAP done. So I'm just trying to make it all make sense for the community.
I can make it make sense for the community, thank you. So the special board meeting that you had to discuss that meeting, I was not invited, nor was Mr. Bland invited to that meeting, which is why I was not present. The following special meeting after that, Mr. Bland was not invited to that meeting until 4, I believe he had left Muskegon by that time. He was not notified, the meeting was at 6, so he could not be present for that meeting. And following that next special board meeting, is my understanding he was not notified about that as well. With relation to the meeting that I was also not invited to, I did speak to Ms. Robinson regarding that meeting. I specifically asked her, has he been told about that meeting? And she indicated no. So the expectation that he would be at a meeting to discuss, corrective action plan that he was not invited to, nor was I, is inappropriate. So, I guess in moving forward as it relates to the partnership agreement, as, Mr. Bland indicated, the decision is not going to be made as to whether Muskegon High Schools, we are fairly, confident that we probably would be, based on the information that was provided. So, I mean, with having the information now, about what happened, at that meeting, is more than adequate time before, selection is made regarding that issue.
I don't even know what issue you're talking about, but, you said Mr. Bland didn't know about the meeting. I'm sure he did because he was involved on the agenda planning. So I don't know how you're saying he didn't know about the meeting, but he's right here, he can speak for himself. And then regarding you not knowing about the meeting, this is a email there, I think. Hi there, good evening, I hope your Sunday is well. Can you post for a special meeting? What do you mean finalize the letter? Finalize our decision from what the letter was asking. We don't need to call a special meeting for that. We can take care of that at our regular meeting. Almost a month, this is Ms. Robinson now. At almost a month, no. I'll check with Dave or Joe to see if they would like to call one. You have a great day as well, thanks.
And did you receive any other information that indicates that we were going to be having a special meeting?
So you said you didn't know about the meeting.
During that discussion, it was not discussed that we would have a special meeting. She asked me about calling one. I felt that it was not necessary. She said she was going to check. After that, she did not respond to me about a special meeting. I found out on my way home when I got an email from Mr. Delacourt's secretary indicating that there was a letter received, for the special meeting. I contacted him and I asked him about it. He indicated that he was told by Mr. Warren. I contacted Mr. Warren. He said, yes, he guesses a meeting, because that's what he was told, that you and Antoinette called that meeting. I called Antoinette, asked her about the meeting. At that time, if you want to pull up emails, find the thread where I was sent an agenda. I was not informed that there was going to be a meeting. She asked me to call one. That did not happen, at least not by me. And if you recall correctly, that meeting also was not posted correctly. We had a specific discussion regarding that issue. And that's really all I'm gonna say about that.
So all right, President, you can go ahead. I'm done.
I just want to make the point that this is how it goes. If I ask, I get pushback, so I go around. I talked to my other fellow board members, this partnership agreement meeting, we were not notified ahead of time when the invite was put out for the date. And the other part about that is, we were notified about the meeting. The meeting started at 9 a.m. and went until 2 p.m. So we were notified at 11 a.m. that she was already in the meeting and she would update us after that. So this is just how it goes.
That is incorrect. I'm not going to pull up any email because it doesn't make sense to do that, at this particular juncture. So I'm not gonna read any email that I sent you all regarding, this meeting, but that is explicitly incorrect.
I'd like to ask Mr. Bland, who do the notify the people for the partnership?
So,
Who notified, is this the same partnership agreement that me and Zachary put in place back in 2016? 2016 before she left, and then I think Renee Garcia took over as superintendent in 2016. And the reason I'm asking this is because in 2016, when they put the partnership agreement together, There was a lot of partners in place. One was the Muskegon Heights Alumni Association. Speaking with the president of the association, he said he did not get an invite. So I just want to know why didn't he get an invite, or who do the invitee to that partnership agreement? At that time, when it first took place, I was the president of the association. I signed my signature for the association to be a partner of the partnership agreement with the state of Michigan. So I don't know if you was, I'm not saying anything, I'm just asking, who do the invite?
Michigan Department of Education, told us that, can you invite the president of the PSA board and the president of the BOE board?
Okay. But did you have, like the ISD was a partner, at that time, Boys and Girls Club, Rotary Club, Rainbow Coalition, those type, organizations was part of the partnership agreement. At that time, I don't know who's still partnership, and up until this year, Jennifer Bauman was the person who was doing the notification from the school district. So I'm just asking, I don't know why and who do the invite.
So at this particular meeting, it was an informal evaluation, and all those partners that you named, and partners, part of the agreement, they said necessarily didn't have to be there at this particular meeting, since it was just an evaluation on the data and what happened last year. So even, we informed, the partnership agreement people, Bill Pearson, Kenny Davis, Deanna Holman, that where do they expect us to pull the information from? So Deanna Holman said that she would work with us to gather some information that we didn't have versus she had the bulk of the information.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Fox mentioned about what is the partnership agreement. So I can't remember the superintendent name, but he passed away, but he came up with the partnership agreement because before that, they were shutting down school systems that performance wasn't up to a certain level. So he came up with the partnership agreement to involve different partners from the local business community, philanthropic community, and other youth activity organizations to work with schools to hopefully help them to do better at the end of the day as we talk about academic achievement. And so that's where the whole partnership agreement came. I would really have to go back. I could look.
Our next
When he received
discussion
the
item
invite.
is our next item on the agenda is, under discussion is our corrective action plan.
I believe there's a time limit for the discussion.
What do you say?
I'm sorry. I was indicating that there, I believe, is time later scheduled for that. If I may make a recommendation, Madam President, many of the things that are left to go over in, Section 3 of the CAP are items that require cooperation between MPFE and the board, and it requires some work and some detail. It would be my recommendation that a working session be set up by the board so that the CAP can be addressed and that Mr. Bland be invited to that working session at the convenience of the board and Mr. Wayne.
I would think that needs to be on the top of the list so we can get that completed, because I just think that we prolonged this too long. That we need to get that done and submitted.
Yes.
I also would like to, I talked to the attorney about the other corrective action plan. When I submitted it on our agenda, I thought that's what we were putting on the agenda. That was the cap. I think this is the cap what we're talking about. The one that I'm talking about was the one that I've been trying to get approved for the last 4 or 5 months. So that, based on the recommendation of the district's compliance manager back in May, that we should have that approved by June 30th. That was talking about back in 2018 when they had the gift card thing. At that time, the superintendent took the board of directors out of the oversight approval for all finances. After discussing that with the compliance manager, again, I've been trying to get it approved. So I think that back when we had the attorney, Rob Gaddick, he said that we don't need to take action on it because he said it expired. But I told him then, I disagreed, because when something expired, it have an expiration date on it. So yeah, I've been discussing some of the financing with Mr. Fox, and some of the checks that I'm seeing wrote without this board having any oversight and even knowing what they have been written for, the large amounts, over $100 and some thousand. I think we are responsible for all finances. If it comes down to, I'm saying criminal activity or whatever, this board is responsible for that. And so, and if we don't have any oversight, I'm not saying anything being done wrong, but what I'm saying is, before a check be spent of that amount, I think that we should be able to ask questions, see it, and approve it. Back when I wrote the resolution, a while back, the resolution states that it should be, before submitted, it should be submitted to the board for approval before they submit any checks to anything over the amount that we think that it should be approved. And so, again, I'm again, big pushback. We think that when Rob Gavin told myself and Mr. Childers, we had a meeting, and when the three of us here, myself, Mr. Childers, and Ms. Slater, that we couldn't pass it because all three of us did vote together. So I think that if we had a 2/3 vote at 3 people, I thought we passed it, but he said we didn't. So I'm asking the board at this point that it's not on the action item, but I just think it's something that we need to look at. I mean, I'm looking at checks that it just flew over me that we got checks being written at that amount, and this board know nothing about it. So, Mr. Fox is the treasurer, and I think before those checks be sent out, he needs to know why, and why they writing them type of checks.
Discussion item tonight for consent review.
One of the
Give him a mic.
One of the things, just a little while ago, your auditor spoke of was a lack of internal controls. And the amounts that are being dealt with when you're paying the electrical bill or, paying a vendor are relatively small compared to $100,000 or $200,000 checks. If your auditor recommends internal controls for those smaller numbers, then I think that you ought to have internal controls for the larger numbers. Checks that are written out of NPFE's account are up to Mr. Bland and his organization. That's not something that this board needs concern itself with. However, checks out of your own accounts using taxpayer money obviously require additional oversight. I would agree and recommend that the board adopt some form of internal controls in order to ensure that there, or I guess lessen the chance of fraud, embezzlement, those types of things. And again, I must, just as Mr. Warren did, I must stress that I'm not accusing anybody of anything like that. I'm just saying, as you move forward, it's important that you have those types of checks in place.
Question, could that not be a subject that's not on the agenda for the work session? Could you perhaps discuss that in a work session? I think that might be more appropriate than taking time now to, because it is a very serious matter. And I agree with you that there needs to be that internal control. The auditor has spoken about that. So that should be probably one of the key items on the working board meeting, whenever that occurs.
I don't dictate to the board.
I understand.
So whenever the board wants to
I'm
address
just
it.
concurring.
So for the record, there are new internal controls that are in place. One of those controls is the fact that the board actually signs checks, which is not what was happening before. And that control clearly is working because the board has not signed the checks and it has not gone out. Additionally, New Paradigm does not have access to, other than processing the information, to the districts or to the academy's bank account. We are not signers. The money is not in our bank account, it is in the academy's bank account, and it has always been in the academy's bank account, and it has never left the academy's bank account. We are not writing checks on our account to be reimbursed by the academy, except for payroll, because we front all of the money for payroll. And so, yes, we require that to be paid back to us, but all other expenses of this academy is paid through the academy's bank account. And the internal control, the ultimate internal control, is that the board signs the checks. We are not signing the checks, the board is signing the checks.
With no disrespect intended, ma'am, I know a thing or two about finance, being married to a CFO and an accountant. The fact that the checks themselves are not in control of the board is, and it can be, that may be something. What's that?
Are you talking about the actual check stop, the blank
Yes.
paper?
Yes,
It's blank paper.
But
It's not a physical check.
I understand
It is
that.
blank paper.
But today, you could go, and I'm not accusing you, so please don't misunderstand. But today, you could go and print out a $20,000 check. The control that is supposed to prevent that is the bank, the receiving bank, and the ultimate bank, that, holds the funds for the PSA, checking the signature against those that are authorized to sign. Now, I've litigated these cases. They don't always catch things. And right now, there is a question as to who signs certain checks. That the board has.
Only the board can sign the check.
Well, at the time, the individuals who were authorized to sign them were Ms. Slater and Mr. Fox, and it does not appear, at least according to our treasurer, to be the signature of either person. Okay? Now,
Say what again?
You heard.
They gave the signature on them.
Oh.
Whatever
on
checks
checks
are
that have been cashed against the PSA's, bank account.
So at what point? Prior to I came on
No,
board,
this would have
when
been-
it was under munis, those checks were not
No,
his
this,
signature. After that, they are his signature.
well, they are not his signature according to Mr. Fox. I believe that he probably knows his own signature.
So,
This occurred in August and later.
Bingo.
correct.
We
Out
have
of
not-
munis, prior to other units, those checks were pre-printed on the checks from the munis accounting system when Lori Mockley was here. During that time, after that, when we switched,
Yes, when did you switch?
they have not been signed by anyone other than the board
When was it switched?
in August.
And
August
this is
26th was the
August
last
and
check
September,
run.
correct?
You're talking about August.
Okay, again, that was under munis.
You said August, the checks you're talking about in August.
Okay, so, right, now it's not that way. After that, it has not been that way. So I said the internal controls are different now than they were prior to. We
We are
didn't start
talking-
doing that, and we didn't even come on and start taking over until August the 16th. Lori Mockley and M1 was processing everything up to that point.
What about in September?
In September, when we printed checks out of AccuFund, those checks were signed by Mr. Fox and Ms. Slater.
You're talking about AccuFund, the thing you switched from units without our permission, right?
No, he took permission.
You do need our permission. It's in the contract. We already went over that. Mr. Blaine, can you get your employee, please?
It's not, it is not an management agreement. It is absolutely not in your board policy, and that prevents me from using the accounting system that is best suited to handle this work. So again, for the record, the checks
Okay, we get it.
have been printed, have been signed by the board treasurer and the board, then board president.
I am
And if you have any
placing
other
on notice.
checks, other than the last check one in August, or whatever those were printed out of the units, any checks that were not printed out of the units, that has someone else's signature on it, please show me.
Mr. Fox, the checks that you were concerned about, were those also in September?
I'll give it to Dave.
Madam President, while he's looking for that date, I know I don't have any legal right now, but as a point of order, the public comments are not at this point, correct? For the audience. So while the discussion's going on, there should be point of order that there be no comments or input from the audience, because we're getting, I think, some mixed messages here. That's just an observation.
I didn't see anything that was.
You said prior to you coming on,
Prior to the accounting system change, when it was under munis,
no,
the checks are being printed
yeah.
with signatures on it.
Okay, I'm speaking of something different. You
Pre-print.
said
Is that what
prior,
you're saying?
You said prior to you coming on, that the board didn't sign checks?
Prior to us changing, no, when under munis, the board was not signing checks, no. Anything that was printed under the munis accounting system that is held by the ISD, the board did not sign those checks, no. They were pre-printed signatures on those checks. And the pre-printed, and this is part of the internal control that he was speaking of from prior to now. There's time that has to be taken in order to change things. So until things got changed, they were printed under munis. And those checks were not signed by the board.
Up until the 16th?
So that was up to what date?
I believe it was the end of August, when they have been checks sitting in munis, that needed to come out of munis, because that is the system that everything was in. I would have to give you the exact date, but there is a very clear date where we stopped using munis.
So did I not hear August 16th?
August 16th is when we officially had taken over. Not, but then, but Lord, but on August 16th is when the board terminated the contract of the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the director of special ed. We didn't have full control prior to August 16th. MM1 was still here. Lori Mockley was still here. The processes were running the exact same as what they were before us. We didn't fully take over and start doing things until the end of August, beginning of September, which is when we had to get ready for audit. So the checks that were printed out of munis, because that process had already started, they were already in there. They needed to be out of the system. All of those checks printed out of munis were printed the way under the old process that had been here way before me. And then anything new for fiscal year 23, starting with July invoices and things, because we didn't pay them, went into the new accounting system. And those checks that came out of the new accounting system that we do control were printed and signed by the board treasurer and the then board president. Is that not correct?
Mr. Blind, perhaps it would be helpful to have, I know the board has hired consultants, one of which is a CPA herself. And perhaps what we could do is have Mr. Fox share the checks that he has concerns over with the Institute's financial expert, and then the two financial experts could talk and work it out.
I'll let you know. I need to talk to the client on the side, and
There's no got you to it. I just figured that might be a more productive conversation than here.
I just have one more question, because I didn't get to finish, because I'm getting mixed messages from you and past board presidents. Past board presidents telling me they did sign checks.
The actual checks that were when I got them.
I understand what you got.
So I don't know what happened prior to then. What I know is that the actual signatures that printed out of munis were signatures of board members, whether it was those board members or any of them up there, and actually I was told it wasn't. Those are old board members because no one removed them from the bank account, or they were removed from the bank account, but no one changed the signatures in Munis, apparently. Now, this is all stuff that came out way after the fact, so, because I wasn't here, I don't know. So if there were board members who physically signed checks, I don't know. In August, there were.
Okay. No, this is the problem. She just said that before she got here board, they didn't sign checks. She just said it. Man.
What part of it is confusing?
What part is confusing for you?
It's not confusing to me, clearly.
You just said prior to, nobody from the board signed checks. Then you just switched it again.
Right, because to my knowledge, when I got here, board members were not signing checks. Their signatures were being printed out of Munis.
They had to sign it for it to be printed, right?
Excuse me?
They had to sign it for it to be able to be printed, right?
It was, no, a pre-printed signature.
But they had to do, that person had to do it,
At
right?
some point, yes, you're right.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
You're absolutely right. At some point, they had to sign it, and that signature was scanned into Munis. I don't know.
So do you get our confusion?
No, I really still don't.
That's why I think you need a policy.
Zero.
That's why I think.
Is that all on our correct?
Yeah, that's all
We will move on to our next discussion item, our fall board policy update.
Oh, there it is.
And I apologize to everyone tonight. We have quite a few discussion items. After Dr. Weatherspoon speaks from the Institute, we will move public comment up because we have to go into closed session. So if that is okay with the rest of my board members, I would like to move public comment up so that we don't hold everyone for too long.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. There are fall policies that the Institute has published and will be presented to you if they're not in your packet already, for you to consider and to adopt. That's the only thing I'm looking for.
Thank you, Dr. Weatherspoon. Public comment, I have Jerry Riley.
I'm good.
You good?
I'm good.
Yeah. Michaela White.
I don't like talking in front of people for real, so bear with me. It's like, oh, y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
I go to Muskegon Heights High School and it's like out of every board meeting I've seen, like, I've never heard nothing about the kids at all. It's like about nothing. I'm tired. I feel like I'm not getting the education I deserve whatsoever. And every time it's something about like new paradigm, blame new paradigm, like if we can't blame new paradigm, who else can we blame? Like, then they put it on the teacher. The teacher just as stressed as we is. The teachers go through stuff every day. New paradigm don't help. I feel like new paradigm don't do nothing for us. I'm gonna just be completely honest. It's just nothing to like really say. They just don't. Like, they be like, oh, we're gonna help. So many promises have not been fulfilled. There have been blank comments and I just feel like there's a lot of animosity in the room and like attitudes and like, and if you're not here to support us, why come? It's us, it's about us. Like, it's not about nobody else. The community is here for us, but I feel like some people on the board and like others are not here, they're here to argue. It's not, I feel like it's not about us. And it's something that's deep that we don't know about that's going on. That's why this whole argument, because it's something deeper than us. I feel like it's something deeper, something more manipulative. They're trying to manipulate us. And it's not working. That's why there's so much arguing and like abstaining, because they don't want to say the truth of what's going on. And like, I feel like that my education is not being what it's supposed to be. And as an 11th grader, I should be learning how to do essays, figuring out what I'm gonna do for college, and I'm not getting that.
Right.
I sit in the classroom all day learning and doing copy work. That's what I do at school, copy work. And it's like the curriculum we supposed to have, we don't have it. So if they tell me all that, oh, well, we're getting a curriculum together, they're not at all.
Okay,
So it's like everything that they say, like, oh, well, we're getting the school together, is not. They just look outside, they're not looking at our perspective. They never asked us how we felt about it. They blame it on the principal most of the time, and it's not her fault. It's the people that's over us, and I don't like the fact that they blame it on people that's from a year now because they're not here no more. They can't, like, basically defend themselves. And it's like blank comments about, oh, well, when this was happening last year, and last year, there's not last year, this year, and there are no improvements. And it's like, since the first day of school, we've been doing the same thing, copy work. And the only really stuff we really do is in algebra, in geometry, and in JAG class, that's it. And it's like, when are we gonna get an education so we can be ready? Because I feel like in the seniors, I feel like they're gonna get blindsided because they're not getting what they deserve. They're gonna get blindsided going to world thinking, oh, college about to be so easy, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be blindsided. And it's like, I just want y'all to like come together and like try to reason, because arguing is not gonna get us nowhere. It's just gonna make the problem worse and worse, and every board meeting gonna be about the same stuff, and it's not never about us.
Amen.
Ms. White, I would like to say to you, thank you. But I also would like to say to you, I only can speak for me. I try my best to always have to give you guys the best education possible here in Muskegon Heights. I don't know if you see me in the buildings at times, but I've been doing this for going on years. And my heart cries out to you and your fellow classmates. I'm doing my best. And if there's anything that I can do to help you get an education, Lord, know I do.
Natasha Fields. All right, I'm Natasha Fields. I got 2 kids at this school. I have a senior and an 11th grader. I don't need that. My 11th grader is a valedictorian in his class. Okay? My senior is in the top 5. She ain't 1 or 2. I say that to say this. My 11th grader came home the other day. It broke my heart. Told me that I begged them to go to the seat. They told me no. He came home last week and told me and he couldn't do this school anymore. He said that he's not learning anything. He wants to know why he doesn't have history class. He wants to know why he's not learning world history. He wants to know why he's only learning in his math class. This baby spoke the truth. Y'all need to listen to these kids. Y'all arguing about everything else except for what these kids is learning up here. These kids going out into this world blind. My senior, if it wasn't for my neighbor that works at Ferris helping him, he wouldn't have got his first letter to college. Because the lady that's supposed to be helping these kids do their college work is in a classroom. They don't have a counselor that they can go in and talk to. They don't have the things that these kids need that every other school has. Now my 11th grader is talking about moving to Georgia to stay with my two sisters because both of them have a kid graduate next year. But he knows that he'll get an education down there. He knows that that school is equipped with books. He knows that he can go to a teacher and ask for help. I asked the teacher, my son called me and said, Mom, can I come home? It's 7:00. They go to CTC. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, I'm just sitting in this class and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I said, well, let me talk to, I said, get off your phone. Get off the phone, go back upstairs to class, and tell the teacher to call me. Teacher didn't call me fast enough. I called to Ms. Phillips. Ms. Phillips connected me to her class. I said, what is my son supposed to be doing? I introduced myself. I said, what is my son supposed to be doing in your class? She said, well, this is a credit recovery class. I said, my son don't need no credit recovery. So what is he supposed to be doing in your class? She said, well, I don't know. The hell you mean you don't know? You're supposed to know why each one of them students is sitting in that classroom behind that desk learning anything that you got to give them. If you don't have anything to give them, why are you here? Why the board can't come in and sit into these classrooms and see what these kids are going through? These kids coming down here to this library doing absolutely nothing. Nothing whatsoever. So when is it going to be about the kids other than people stealing money, writing checks, and arguing among each other? Because that's all you're showing these kids how to do. Is to argue instead of telling them that they deserve better. They need better. Y'all have a good night.
Michelle Tyson.
That I'm like so tired, so exhausted for this fight. A lot of us have been fighting this fight for a long time. And me, personally, I listened to these kids today and it really hurts. It truly does. Because I love kids. Everybody know Miss Michelle love the kids. I listen to them because I was a kid once before who didn't get listened to. So when you're not listening to these kids, Mr. Blaine, and yeah, I'm calling you out today. When you don't listen to these kids, you have them like that, wondering where their education comes from. Who cares about them? Who really cares? Because right now, y'all showing me y'all don't care nothing about them at all. You sat up here and you lied for a whole month straight, talking about these kids got a curriculum. Then you come up with all these wonderful reports when it comes down to the district board meetings. But when it comes down to the PSA board meeting and the community be out here in full force, you don't have nothing to say to us. Nothing. We want that same open mouth you get at district board. We want that same open mouth here. Amen. Stop treating us like we don't know what's going on. These kids just literally sat here tonight after this meeting and broke down y'all whole scheme. And to sit up here and say, they lying. And they don't even know y'all. They wondering, why is Miss Slater sitting up here explaining everything all the time? Why she ain't sitting here giving her opinion? If she not gonna sit up here and help fight for us, why she even here? The babies ain't gonna say it, but I said, if you not fighting for them, why are you here? Because clearly they feel like you ain't fighting for them at all. So here today, I'm standing up and I'm speaking out. My kids, all these kids gonna stand up and speak out every day. Don't think we stopping today. This is just the beginning. And I guarantee you, we gonna stand strong and we gonna stand firm every day until these kids get the proper education that they deserve. Now, checks being signed, you said, you acted like you didn't understand it, the question. The question was, Mr. Fox's name wasn't on there, Ms. Slade's name wasn't on there, so how them checks get signed? Ain't nobody got no answers to that. Fallon?
When New Paradigm first came to our school, they were talking about how they were going to help us get a good education. But where's that education? And that we were going to get into the colleges, but where's that education? Our teachers are having to beg just for our work to be sent in. We've had to sit up in classrooms for weeks with nothing to do because y'all couldn't send it through. And when you did, it was copy work. Work that was used, written, on, destroyed. Where's that education? And when it was sent in, it was incomplete. Our homework packets that we supposed to be doing, incomplete. And when you were like, yeah, come on, we sent it in, but you sent it with stuff that we needed that wasn't there. If we aren't given the time and resources, how can we be successful and have a chance at having an education? I have a whole bunch of 11th grader friends, and they haven't had the chance to get an education because different companies come through, promise us stuff, but then they can't follow through with it. They haven't kept their end of the deal, and we need teachers. Our teachers are out here doing security, having to watch more than one classroom at a time, but y'all are in no rush to get them through. My teachers have been trying to send y'all people to get in here so they don't have to be stressed out 24/7, and y'all ignore them. So now all those teachers that they had, they're gone. They got different jobs at different places. If you're not going to do anything good for our school, why are y'all here? Why do we have to sit up here and have to fight for everything that we want and we stand for in this school if y'all can't do it too? We're losing teachers because the work that y'all send in is incomplete. They're having to use their paychecks to go out and buy stuff that should have already been sent with it. We're having to waste our resources because they're having to make up their own curriculum, having to make up their own stuff for us to do so we can try and have an education. And I'm gonna say this again. If you're not going to do anything good for our school, what's the point of y'all being here? If y'all are just gonna argue about money. This school is in debt because of all these companies coming through arguing about money. So I'm gonna go back to what Kayla said. When is it about us? When has it ever been about us? It's about us never. Never. It's about if y'all could get the most money and stuff. People from New Paradigm were just up at MLK not too long ago, waving money in the kids' faces. How do you think the parents feel that are struggling with money? And to have their kids be sent to school and People going around screaming, "You want $1?" My little sister goes there.
Wow.
How do you think that made her feel, knowing that her friends, they're struggling with money? And struggling with money, struggling with their education. And I'm gonna say this again. If y'all not gonna do no good for this school, leave.
Amen.
Because we're not doing no better than we were when you weren't here. If anything, we're doing worse.
Amen.
Y'all put our school in more debt than we were before you got here. We're having to stay after school for hours. It's almost 8 o'clock. Right now, I'd be at home with my little sister helping her with her homework that she should have. But instead, I'm having to come up here and tell y'all what you should do. Tell you what needs to happen. But it ain't.
Excuse me, young lady. Excuse me. I have a question. You said that at MLK they was waiving money?
Yes.
To the kids, what you trying to say, they was giving kids money or?
No. They was walking around. This girl came in with a big wad of cash, walking around, going up to the kids, singing, "You want $1?" in their face.
Somebody named Mrs. Ware. I think she's from New Paradigm, I'm not sure.
She is. But all New Paradigm do is keep secrets, right?
It's not the bag now. It's not the bag now. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say?
My name is Jamaica Simmons. I live in 100 Crescent Avenue, Muskegon Heights, Michigan. I am a graduate of Muskegon Heights High School, class of 1984. I have 2 children that graduated from here. I had a grandson. I enrolled him in Muskegon because I didn't want to deal with heights. And I am a diehard Tiger. I wouldn't let my son go to any school when they tried to recruit him. 2 of them. Now, I don't have any children in this district, but I do have children in this district because I have what you call them, godchildren all over the place. This is the second time I have seen something that is critically crazy to me and I don't understand it. First time we've had IV bags. Second time, there are chairs, beautiful, colorful chairs, and tables that are sitting in the middle school gym. And I'm wondering, we don't even have a curriculum. How do we have new furniture? I don't understand it, but I need some clarification. Because I'm gonna give you my opinion right now. I have stated it on Facebook and I will state it now. I don't know what the hell is going on around here, but if Heights closed down, we don't have no city. So what? Somebody else is gonna come in here, buy the buildings, and then they're gonna bring a new charter school in here? And to hell with what we have built? That's what I'm talking about. Because my mom and dad went here. We have people that have generations of lineage in this community. And I can't understand. I just can't understand. These kids broke my heart because they sit here talking about they don't have books. And since I've been coming to this meeting, I have heard that there's curriculum coming. Well, damn, this is November. We don't have none yet. I'm not understanding this. This management company said they were going to do something and nothing has progressed with everything that should not have progressed. And I'm not understanding it. I have been in this community all my life, except for when I served in the military. And I represented my city quite well. And I continue to represent my city. But at the rate our school system is going, by December, we ain't gonna even be here. Because the state is gonna come in. And if the state comes in, that means, wow, we ain't got nothing. Everybody from the city, the district board is in cahoots together. And it don't take a rocket scientist or Ray Charles to see that. And it's pathetic that we are being taken like we are being taken. Anybody can see this. And I would love to serve on this board, but I know they're not gonna let me because I'm so outspoken. And I'm going to continue to be outspoken because somewhere, somebody gonna hear what I'm saying eventually. And I hope it's not too soon or too late, because that don't make no sense. Kids coming to board meetings asking for help when they should be thinking about their education and not begging nobody for help. And I'm with that young lady. If you ain't gonna help, get your hat, your coat, and leave.
Public comments? I'd like to move on to our next discussion item.
Before you move, I'd like to say something to the community. It may look like we arguing about paychecks being signed, things to that effect. To the young people, the students, you don't see the things that we're really trying to put in place. No, you know, but what I'm saying is, when you talk about us as a board, now, I've tried, but I've also been told by the two district board members to stay out of the school. So when you're being told by your authorizer board, when you're trying to help, and they telling you to stay away. The other thing is, when we hired the National Charter School Institute, because we sit here, a lot of us is not not educated, so we try to put people in place that know more about school system than we do. Again, we get pushback. When we talked about, they sent a letter saying to us about learning the charter language of the school. I said, who better to teach us the charter language than the person who wrote the charter language? Pushback again, still. All the way until this morning, I got a pushback talking about Dr. Weatherspoon, talking about the National Charter School Institute. We had an attorney that we didn't think was being honest when we said, and I just happened to hear it on the news that he was a representative for New Paradigm for real estate, but at the same time, he said here, should have had the obligation to tell us that he was representing New Paradigm. But we cannot do this alone. We need the community. We need the parents to start, when we come into these schools, we see students acting out of order, and we need the parents to explain to their child that when they come to school to learn, not to come to school to act out. So we are trying to put things in place to educate people, but it's just like last week at the district board. I have never took a punch in my stomach as bad as I did last week. But what happened at that district board meeting, I've never seen that in my 45 years of volunteering my services in Muskegon Heights. I've never seen that. To remove a person from president that's been there 8 days, and then turn around and sent me a letter back months ago, and I was on the board 6 months. David had been on there 1 week. Ms. Robson had never been on it. What they did last week, this letter they sent to us in March, described the whole doggone thing. They was intent on getting rid of us anyway. Yeah. Do it sound like I'm upset? You doggone right. Because if we're gonna play games with these kids' education, then let me off now. Amen. I do not want to do this. I will not play games with these kids' education. They deserve better. Amen.
I just want to say that I love kids and I love teaching. And being at the school, I have seen where a lot of the children do not have supplies. Now, when it comes to books and supplies and the whole nine for each and every one of their classes, whether it's science, whether it's math, whether it's history, none of these things are available. No books. How are we to teach these children without books and supplies? So when he was talking about the audit, I heard him talk about equipment for the kitchen, maybe a salad, something or another. But I didn't hear him say anything about books or supplies. Where is that? Where is the excuse me, where is the the audit for that? Where's that at? These children definitely. Wow. I have all of these kids in my class, actually every one of them. And they are so awesome, but at the same time, they deserve more. And when they don't have those supplies, as one of them said, we have to come out of our own creativity and our knowledge of the subject and bring it forth. In one of the classes, one of the parents got up and talked about, she called, and it was me that she talked with. I have 4 classes. I have government history, I have personal finance, I have civics, and the last part is credit recovery. When she asked me, why is my son in this classroom? Why is he in that classroom? Why? What am I to say to her? Why is he there? He is extremely smart, but why is he there? Yeah, she had a right to be extremely hurt because she was wondering the same thing I am. I don't know.
Who's putting that?
So I love what you just said. You've been a tiger since your parents so forth. I'm a big red, but at the same time, back in the day, we all had fun. Our schools had fun with each other, going to games with each other. Oh my God, it was great. We have to bring that community back. We have to have that love for this community back. And yeah, when it comes to charter schools, whew, I did my own research. And I found out that not just here in the United States, but in the Americas, when it comes to the public schools of Black and brown children, every one of them have been taken, public schools have been taken and turned into charter schools. What is going on, seriously? That is not right. That's not right. So therefore, when it comes to these babies and their education, books and supplies is all I need. Last year I worked here and I was doing geometry and algebra. When I went into the classroom, there was no books. How am I going to teach this class if I don't have books? So I ordered my own program. And it had worksheets, it had quizzes, it had everything that I needed to teach them. I ordered my own. That shouldn't have been. Right. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Regina Roberts, Richardson, sorry. I want to give you my last name.
He don't respond.
We don't never respond.
Ask him to respond.
Good evening. I'm gonna try my very best to be really, really quick again. I'm sure most of you know me. My name is Regina Richardson. I'm a lifetime resident of Muskegon Heights. I'm a homeowner. I no longer have children in the district, but I do have nephews that are in the district. And I think you all know my story about Edgewood Elementary and the curriculum. And I would be remiss if I didn't stand here while Mr. Bland is here to not ask you about that curriculum. Now, while I ask you, it's actually rhetorical because for the entire time you haven't said a word. How you, as an African American Black man, how dare you sit there and smile in those babies' faces? As if what they're saying is a joke. They deserve the same education you got, and you got, and you got, and you got, and you, and you, and you, and me. These babies are suffering if you don't have the right curriculum for kindergarten kids. My nephew, since I went to Edgewood Elementary, and I'm not gonna say that they're targeting him, but they're targeting him. In 2 weeks, he was suspended for 6 days. This is a 5-year-old. This is a 5-year-old in a classroom of 30, 31 kids with one teacher. Not only that, we got on the list, myself and my daughter, to help our community of children, my nephews, we're his village. So we're on his list to go up to the school and check on him and to help keep him on the right track. He's a little boy and he's 5. Anybody that knows anything about kids know what a 5-year-old boy is like. Okay? But that does not negate the fact that he deserves an education. So not only are they now kicking him out, Miss Crocker, is her name? Yeah, the principal. Not only is she now kicking him out of class, we can no longer go to the classroom to help intervene on Chase's behalf. He has to be brought out of the classroom where the behavior is to a separate room in Edgewood Elementary to try to help him. Now, how am I going to help him behave in a classroom with 29, 30 other kids if I can't see what he's doing in that classroom? What is the triggers for him? You got 2 kindergarten teachers and you have no parapros and no Ticonderoga pencils, which I am going to buy for the kindergarten kids. You don't have the equipment that you need for them, but you want them to, again, write what? A riddle? A riddle? And they can't even spell their name, Mr. Bland. And I looked at the homework and it said the work they were working on, and it said, write your riddle. This is a 5-year-old kid with a number 2 pencil and a clipboard. So I honestly do not even expect you to answer. I don't. I just want to say, shame on you. And if you think that we are a bunch of ignorant people in this district that don't know what's going on, we don't have to talk about money in front of the kids or whatever, and I could honestly care less. However, you do need the money to run the district. So you do need to know where the money is coming from, who's spending it, and why, and the checks and balances. You need every bit of that. I think it's shameful, and I wish to God that when you close your eyes at night, you saw my 2 little nephews, because you're playing with their future. And for you to sit there and smile as if these kids, these girls are nothing, she's absolutely right. They're going to be blindsided when they get out of school, when they leave high school. If they go to college, what do you think that first semester is going to be for them? What do you think it's going to be for them? And if you can't do what you told us you were going to do, like she said, get your hat, your coat, and leave. Period. Because we care about our kids. And I'm going to keep advocating for Chase and Armani. If I have to stand outside of Edgewood, because I'm not, like I said last time in the last meeting, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm going to fight for them. And I'm not the only one that's going to fight for these kids. Right. We all have a connection to somebody in this district. Right. So you can sit there smug and, legs crossed, hand on, whatever. It's cool, because we can do that too. However, that's not why we're here. We're here advocating for I want all the little other high school students to stand up. Middle school, y'all stand up. Like she said, this is why we're here. Right. This is why we're here. This is why we're here. So when y'all figuring out who's signing the checks, who didn't sign the check, and actually what you wrote $100,000 check for, and these kids don't have pencils and books, sleep well. That concludes our public comment. We will move now on to our next discussion item, which is our homeless children and youth liaison appointment.
Typically, somebody from the district, usually counselor or something, will act in that role. I would recommend that you ask Mr. Blaine who that liaison is.
Talk at the mic.
I'm sure.
It's on.
Hello?
Yeah.
What I was trying to say is I'm sure Mr. Bland already has somebody in that slot. And we just need to check on that. It is required by law as part of the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act. And we will need to ensure that somebody's filling that position in order to comply with that law.
Mr. Donovan, the person that was in that slot has put in her letter of resignation. That's why I put it there. And we have to have somebody, you're right, we have to have somebody in that position. And so I think we need to look at, we have a parent and lay time and also would help with that. So I think maybe that would be the direction that we might need for going. That have some experience in that as well.
In this particular situation, and I apologize for this, but you have to, my recommendation is that you tread carefully, that you don't necessarily assign duties to the employees. That said, it seems like Mr. Bland being here tonight can easily take the ball and run with it and report back to the board at its next meeting, who that person has been assigned, who has been assigned to that position.
Okay, and the past attorney that we had, he said, when we were doing those positions, he told us we had to do it. And that's why I said what I said, because when we, was talking about Title IX coordinator and all those, other positions, he told us we could do those. So we appointed people to all those different positions, such as homeless, Title IX, different ones to that effect. Did he tell us we're gonna give us the right information? Maybe, maybe not, but that's how I got it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely understand. I would not recommend that board members become coordinators. There is a procedure for Title IX claims, and in the new procedures out of the Department of Education, there are very regimented roles for the Title IX coordinator, the investigator, the decision maker, and the board. And if a board member were to fill that position as a Title IX coordinator, for example, that would cause a conflict within the procedures as spelled out by the Department of Education. Staff members make a lot more sense. That is, staff members make more sense. That's who typically would hold that position. When you are talking about Title VII, Title VI, Title IX, those type of positions, the ABA coordinator, those typically are positions that are extra duty positions for senior leadership, building principals, guidance counselors in some instances, those types of positions. And so, if I'm, and Mr. Warren, if you could correct me, do we have, with the exception of the one position, the McKinney-Bento position, do we have coordinators within, assigned within NPFE?
Yes.
Okay. So, if I, please forgive me if I get this wrong. If I understand you correctly, your concern is that the person is leaving, who was the McKinney-Bento liaison, and now we don't have somebody assigned. Is that something, Mr. Wayne, that you can bring back to the board at the next meeting?
Yes. Yes.
Does that cover everything?
Okay, moving on, our next discussion item is our board meeting schedule consideration for December 5th special meeting.
What is it for?
That was placed on your agenda as a recommendation from your consultants. Also, I would second their recommendation. At this time, we have a lot of business to cover, including the staff answers, etc. And the thought was that the board may at least temporarily go through a every 2 week cycle in order to have more time to get to. And that's, again, we don't dictate to the board, so it's entirely up to you if you wish to go that direction.
Everybody good on that? Our next item is management report and update from the Paradigm.
You saw the partnership agreement packet. Also what I put in here, and it's a lot of information, because I don't expect you to see it all right now, but it's also a waiver that was approved. Michigan Department of Education did come out and extended 90-day substitute permits, but also full-time substitute permits for different positions. And I put that in the packet. It looks like this, so you can have that for your information. I know last week, someone talked about IV bags and spending money on IV bags or something like that. It's a letter that was signed off on. That box of IV bags were actually delivered here by mistake. And so we made sure they got to the right organization, and they signed off that they received the goods per se. It was IV and something else. In addition, in that pack is also, so you can look at it later, is the certification warranty, and what that looks like this, and behind it is a list of all the employees in the district and their positions, instructional and non-instructional. And that has to be certified. No, I don't expect you to do that this evening, but I did put it in there so you can look through it. In addition to that, there's 3 packets in the back. It looked like this was actually part of the professional development that went on Friday, the data day, which happened at each school, and they went through and had different positive points of pride, but also looked at data, student data, and also came up with a couple of plans on how to attack those different data points. And you have a packet in there from each school that was presented. So you can look through that also, so if you have any questions later. Also, behind the partnership agreement packet is a what we say, a global view of different aspects where you'll have the subgroups, the demographic data, the ethnic breakdown, also the average daily attendance report, the chronic absenteeism, also some suspensions, but also in here is a special ed, and also a current teacher list as of today. And I know we have 4 people actually resigning. I know one, Ms. Cooper at Edgewood, Ms. Brown, who left already, and Bertels are supposed to be leaving also. But I am in some conversation with the Bertels, and I can update you on that. Behind the teacher report, also too, is facility needs and repair schedule. Behind that, looks like this.
Could you repeat that, please?
Behind the teacher report is a facility needs and repair schedule, and also a list of different positions for maintenance. And it shows when some of those repairs, the time of year they should take place. So this is a facility. Oh, I see.
Madam President, may I ask a question? Madam President, may I ask a question? Okay. So you've identified the problem areas, Mr. Blank? Mr. Bland, you've identified the areas that need repair. Is there some type of recommendation as to when those repairs will be completed? Who you've contacted, to any contractors, any bids, whatever you need to put out to make these necessary repairs? Is there a timeline?
So it is a proposed timeline at the top, where it lists each school, and some of those repairs will take place either in the fall, winter, or spring, depending on what type of repair it is, and how big the project is.
Do you have to get bids from 3 companies for this, or do you have, what was the process?
So we don't have bids for companies on some of this. Some of this is maintenance. Some of the larger repairs will have to get bids, but some of this is also maintenance, ongoing maintenance also that happens.
Within our maintenance staff,
Yes.
maintenance staff within the school district.
Yes.
Is there a safety issue? Is there a safety issue with any of these?
I'm not aware of a safety issue with any of these. I know it is, we do have a major repair in the MLK building, but that's more of a summer type repair, and it's closed off, so nobody have access.
Is that the auditorium?
Yes.
We got bids on that?
It was bids last year, but it should be rebidded out because those bids probably have expired. And plus, since COVID, the cost of different items and repairs and things have went up a lot, so it have to be rebidded out.
Okay.
I'm sorry, those were just quotes. I don't think it was bidded out. Yeah.
So once repairs are completed, who will the city inspect? Or who will be the inspector?
Oh, yes, definitely. The city and OSHA will come in and inspect. There'll probably be an ongoing timeline of different inspections that need to happen at different phases when it gets when the work starts. Just to see. Interior.
left the meetings on the board?
I have, the contract for the snow removal inside.
I'm not aware of that.
So so at this point, we don't have a company to remove the snow.
I would actually have to check with Mr. Hicks, because I know he's been working on that. And I could get back with you on that.
Our last item in our discussion items is the status of the MDE and ISD meetings.
So what you have is the October financial packet for the academy. This is as of October 31st. Yeah, as of October 31st. So it's cumulative from July through October. The first page that you have, the first part of the report, is called the executive summary. The executive summary is designed to give you at a glance an idea of where the academy is, actual versus budget. Back in June, the board adopted a budget for the academy for the year. The law requires the board to adopt that budget at the function level. So this report gives you that budget to actual at the function level, which is required by law. It was adopted in June for this fiscal year. So the executive summary is kind of a way to kind of get an idea of what dollars are being spent on what. So for example, function code 1 that starts with the 110 basic programs, you can see that per the executive summary, these expenditures include activities dealing with direct teaching with pupils or interaction between teacher and pupil. These include regular and summer programs. So anything that is spent as it relates to the actual teaching and in the classroom activities fall under that category. Yes, you have questions?
So it indicates here supplies for staff, and you're just saying there aren't supplies. How does that relate to?
There are supplies, and they would be in that category. So anything related to in the classroom. Yes, and that would include salaries and benefits, supplies, curriculum, everything related to what happens in the classroom. 120 added needs. These expenditures are instructional classroom activities designed for pupils' additional needs, special education, compulsory education, which is usually tutoring, things that are typically purchased with federal dollars. All of those type of expenditures will fall under that category. So when you look at what was budgeted versus what was spent, that's telling you what is included in that category of spending.
And this actually has occurred.
Correct. So you have the budget and then you have the actual. So the year-to-date actual is what actually has occurred, yes.
So
And how much was spent in that category.
Do you know where, like, which part of it went to? Did it go to tutorial, special education? 'Cause we still don't have special education needs. I know we don't have tutors. So where is this money going?
So when we get further back, you'll be able to see a little bit better. I want to go over just an overview, and then there's detail. Yeah, so this is a summary that kind of gives it to you the way that the law requires it to be reported to them. So that by the end of the year, we will know whether or not we are hitting that mark or not, and if adjustments need to be made. There's also what the auditor looks at as well. So this is in summary form. There's detail as well that goes with this. 210 are pupil activities, activities designed to assess and improve the well-being of pupils. These services include counselors, social workers, and things like that.
So
Yes.
and I don't want y'all, I'm the treasurer, so students, when it come to money, I gotta know every detail. It says activities are designed to assess and improve the well-being of pupils. These services include counselors and social workers. We don't have either.
Well, there are social workers because there are services that are contracted through a third-party vendor that provide some of these services. Also, special ed services some of those services are contracted through a third-party vendor. So there are services. We may not have a person on staff, and I don't know what all the titles of all the people are for all of the staff, but if they're not on staff, it doesn't mean that the services are not being rendered. It just means that it may be done through a vendor contract. For example, Total Education Solutions or I don't think that's one of them. Yeah.
So if we can we find out who exactly the social workers are?
Yes.
No, you don't have to do it right now. I was just saying.
I need to take notes.
Okay. All right.
Comprehensive learning. And speech, and they do speech, but we'll get that. I was just remembering the company.
And also an assessment of outcomes.
So
they perform their duties.
Yeah, so that's probably something that we couldn't necessarily give you because it has to do with student testing. And there's purple laws, there's a whole lot of laws related to that. So we would not be able to bring that to the board meeting.
What about their actual functionality? Like, they test the students, but in testing the students, procedurally, how do they do that? And are there areas of concern in testing our students?
Can we get back to you? I'm the money person.
Okay. Just make note, just make note. All right.
Okay, so then you have 220, which is another category, which relates to assisting instructional staff, utilizing various training programs, professional development goes in there, and those types of things. 230 is general administration, activities related to operating expenditures, which include legal, audit, board of affairs, board expenses, accounting services, advertising, any kind of general administration type will go into that category. School administration, anything related to the principal's office generally, will go under school administration. Business, activities relate to the fiscal operation of the school, thus usually, finance related, loan interest, there's other categories, but those are the type of expenses going there. Operations and maintenance, building costs goes in there.
Can I stop you right there?
Yes.
The one you're reading right now says, these are activities related to the maintenance and lease of DEPSA facilities. DEPSA is Detroit Edison, right?
Yeah, that's a mistake in the report. We did not, we copied the report over, format of the report. It is not DEPSA's report. There's a typo in the report. This comes out of the system. We did use the template for the report for this school. So it's not DEPSA's data, it is the template of the report that we use and needs to be updated. Error. It should just not have a school in there, it's lease of facilities. It just should be facilities. We use the report template for all the schools. All of our schools use the exact same format. We're not gonna recreate the wheel. We're gonna use what we already have. So we took that report format and we had used it for Muskegon.
But it's just oversight to have.
Oversight, right. I'm sorry. Pupil transportation, of course, that relates to busing of the students. Now, interestingly, that one, if you look at the actual column, it's a negative number there, which is a negative expense. It means that, you know, we got money back. So last year, there was some expenses that were paid that we returned, a check was returned to the district related to some invoices that were paid that were for, I think, Muskegon. And the bus company returned that check. And so because of that, you know, and we book it against the expense, we're kind of running off of that, you know, money. So it's a good thing. It's not something that happens typically, and it shouldn't happen. However, it did. So it came back.
It was not RN that did that, Muskegon Schools.
No, it was RN. It was a check that was sent out in June for invoices that did not belong to Muskegon Heights. It belonged to Muskegon. Yeah. And then it was returned. It wasn't the bus company sent the wrong invoice to Muskegon Heights. They sent the invoice that belonged to Muskegon Public Schools. And we paid it, and then we got, the check came back to us reimbursed, and then, yes, and we deposited it in the bank, yes.
So it's the transportation company.
The transportation company sent the invoice to the wrong company, the wrong school, and it was paid. Yeah.
Is there any way we can talk to, it's Dean Transportation, right?
Correct.
About adding another bus or two?
Yes,
I think we only have one bus right now. And a lot of our kids are waiting, getting home 5, 6 o'clock.
Okay. I thought there were more. Actually, there's 3 buses. Are you sure? Because we have 3 bus aides.
Is it 3?
There should be 3 buses. Well, he said it's still not enough, but there's 3, not 1. And he said it's not enough. Therefore, we will be looking at that.
All right.
Next page, I'm just kind of going over the categories one by one because I know this is not something that you've seen before. And I want to explain it. So that, going forward, obviously this process will go faster because we won't need to kind of go over all of that in detail anymore. And it'll just be a matter of questions. 280 central services has to do with, maintaining staff, HR services, anything related to hiring, advertising for positions and that kind of thing.
You said HR?
Yes.
Who does that?
We have an HR department that handles that. And payroll, and also the processing of payroll would be charged there.
Okay.
290 is other support services. If there isn't an actual category for it that the state of Michigan says you have to put stuff in, the default would be other support services. So that would be anything that we cannot classify in one of the other buckets. Correct. We try to stay away from that because most things can be categorized based off of, the state of Michigan's, required chart of accounts. I can't think of anything at the moment that will fall under that. I don't know. We would have to see if we come up with something, and then I'd have to explain it, but we don't usually use it. There's a budget number there only because it was budgeted back in June, and we have to put the budget in the way that it was done. And so we just, when we amend the budget, we'll probably take it away.
So that money, we don't lose it if we don't.
Correct, you do not lose it, it will just get reallocated somewhere else, or it'll go to your fund balance if it's not used. But you can see it's only $1,500, so it's not even, something that is significant. 293 is athletics. Anything related to the athletic department will be found in there. That would be coaching stipends, that would be buses for transportation to games, that would be equipment related things, anything related to all athletic events. That would be maintenance for the football field, anything like that. And we keep that together in its own fund so that we know how much it costs to run the athletic program. That is usually useful for the athletic director to know, because when the athletic director goes out and try to get sponsorships or try to get things, for the athletes, usually they want to know, well, how much is your athletic program? And so we pull those things out and put it in its own separate fund so that we are aware of how much the program actually costs and not just speculate on, a roundabout number. So at some point, it will be more defined and more accurate. Right now, we know what was paid last year, we know what the budget was on, and so now we're trying to develop an actual cost factor, and so that when we budget for the amendment, we'll have a good idea of what those costs are. Muskegon Heights is very proud of its athletic program. That is something that, will be helpful information.
I have a question on that. Yeah. I looked at this whole document over the weekend, and that was one of my main questions. It says we started the school year with a $49,000. What they started out with $49,000.
I'm sorry, say that again?
They started the school year with $49,000.
Expensive, well, it's not the, sorry, okay, go ahead.
Right here, you got 49,000.
Yes, actual cost.
Actual, year to date.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got 212,000.
As the budget, yes.
Now it's at the remaining balance is 63,000 or whatever. 163,000. So the budget was 212,000. Last year, the budget was 266,000. how do we determine to lower the athletic budget from 266 to 212?
So we didn't lower any budget, we didn't determine anything. This is the budget that the board approved in June. So yes, it was projected back in June. And I didn't do it, so I don't have a good answer for that. It was probably more accurately based off of whatever had been spent for, through that time. And then they just use that to project for the next year because there's, yeah.
Because the year before, year 2020, the projected budget was 129,000. Then it went from 129 to 266. Then this year it's over 266 to 212. I understand, all that comes, what all comes out of it, the field, the athletic chain gang and all that to come out of the athletic budget. But I'm just wondering how it would fluctuate like that.
Well,
I know you did.
I know, but I can just tell you, it will fluctuate based on the actual. So if we know last year that the athletic program cost $212,000, all things remaining equal, you have the same sports, you have the same, number of coaches, you have the same expenses, or type of expenses with reconditioning helmets, you have the same field costs. Unless there is an increase in any of those things, you can expect to spend at least what you spent the year before. Now, with COVID, of course, it decreased, and then it may have come back when, so it's gonna probably always be based off of what you did the year before, and maybe a little bit of extra if there's something that is coming up that you want to do that you didn't do last year. I don't know what that could be, a new sign, or something. But it's gonna be about the same year over year with just a little bit of fluctuation.
Because the 266 was a projection.
It would, right, which means it was probably over. It probably was more than what was budgeted. You budgeted for more than what was needed, and you only spent 212. Therefore, the next year, she only budgeted for 212 going forward. It doesn't mean it can't change.
No, I'm sorry, man. I'm just, because I know, like, this year you might have to do helmet, replace helmets or whatever. You don't do that every year.
Right. So I can tell you that what the process will be for this, for when we amend the budget. I've already had a conversation with the athletic director because I don't know sports and I don't know how, so we're gonna sit down and we're gonna go through, tell me what those items are that need to be budgeted for. And then we kind of put a cost to it and then we see what it is.
Can I be a part of that meeting, please?
Sure.
Because in this same document, you also have cheerleaders.
They're in there too.
Cheerleaders fall under the athletic budget.
They are in there.
But they got their own.
Where?
They got $2,100.
Where? The cheerleaders absolutely are gonna fall under the athletic budget. I don't know where they were last year. I know where they're gonna be this year. They're gonna be under that athletic budget.
So where's the athletic budget being, what bank account is that in?
I'm not sure what you mean. There's only one bank account.
So earlier, let me I just wanna make sure you're clear. Did you say that we had the athletics separate earlier?
In a fund, so for a school district accounting, you have several different funds. You have a general fund, you have, the athletic fund, you have different funds, but that's an accounting issue, it's not a bank thing. It's not an actual bank account.
Okay.
It's just the accounting.
So for choice, we have one account. When I pay for the refs, when I pay for the field, when I pay for whatever regarding athletics, it comes out of that same one account. So there's no way for us to separate it.
Yeah, we separate it in our accounting system in a separate fund. It's just the account number that we use. So each chart for the state of Michigan, we're required to use, and it's not just the state of Michigan, it's just fund accounting in general. You
have a separate fund for each type of activity. We have a general fund, and for us, the general fund starts with a 1 and 11. We have, where we also keep track of all of our federal expenditures, and we use Fund 12 for that. Each one of those funds keeps track of all of the revenue and expenses related to that fund or that activity. We account for that in the accounting system, not in the bank account. So when we enter the account number in the system to record the transaction, we use the proper fund so that we can keep it separate from all other stuff. So with athletics, that particular fund is 21. So anything related to athletics, the account number is gonna start with the 21, and that's how we know it is the athletic fund, but it's not a separate bank account. All this stuff go through the one bank account at the bank, cash-wise, but accounting-wise, it goes through. We have the ability to create as many funds as we need.
But there's no way for me to see that separation.
Is it in detail?
No.
Yes, the account numbers are in the detail.
I'm asking, so prior to you saying this, I had no knowledge of that. So what I'm asking is, what I'm saying is, when I write a check for let's say, Mr. Dodd, who does the fields, right? That comes out of the general fund. All I can see is that it's coming out of our one account that we have. I don't see that it's coming out of athletics.
Would it be like just earmark, what if they earmark?
It should be a separate account.
What it would be?
But no, it shouldn't.
I mean, not separate account, but it should be a way to, so
Like
we have a general account,
On
right?
a separate bank account.
It should be athletics.
We can do that. So let's just be clear. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done. It's not saying that it cannot be done. That is generally not how it's done. So the answer is it can be, it is not, and it's generally not, but it could be. If that is, but we would also have the ability to transfer money into that account, but it's not just the coaches that come out of there, it's salaries and it's other stuff too. And we would not be able to, for payroll items, we would not be able to access a separate bank account.
So there's no, I just want to see the access. I just want to have access to see what's in athletics, what's in the general account.
But are you talking about the actual physical bank account at the bank?
If it's all in one fund, if it's all in one account, there's no way to see that. So what you're saying is it's all in one bank account, but whatever you're looking at, you can separate it when you write the checks. I can't see that.
It is, there's detail, I will show you.
But I should see that before, not today.
You should see it before, like, how? That's part of writing the checks, which when you sign the checks, it's there. I guess I'm not trying to be funny.
No, I get it. I get it.
Not clear on what it is you're asking.
So what I'm saying is when I sign it, it's just coming out the general account. It doesn't say that Mr. Dye's check is coming out of athletics. It says that we're paying Mr. Dye out of the choice one account, just at the general account. It doesn't say we're paying him out of athletics.
Correct, it does not, because there's only one bank account. No, it shouldn't. No, it shouldn't.
Okay.
The next category is student activities. These will be things related to the students. If they, raise money for, the senior class, expenses related to that would go in there. Graduation related expenses would go in there. Things that are related to student activities where they have, raised money, that kind of thing, would go under that category. No, it's not. We can actually budget for it. It was not budgeted for it in June. So in June, when this was done,
There was no budget for it. And that doesn't mean that we can't put a budget in there. And generally, just so that you're aware. Right, but that's, so the budget is generally amended after state aid, after the count, because prior to, back in June, no one knows what the count is gonna be. And so we won't amend the budget until after the count is in. The count is in, right? And so now we know what the state aid is gonna be, and so we can start that amendment process. But prior to, from when it's originally adopted back in June, we work under that budget until we amend it, which will be happening December. Community service activities or 297 is food service. Again, that's its own separate fund. That is a fund that encompasses all the expenses related to food service. This is the one where the audit finding was saying you had too much money in your fund balance and it had to be spent down. That's related to food services. So everything related to food services is in that group of accounts.
Do we have the count of the kids who receive or supposed to receive free and reduced lunch?
100% of the students receive free lunch. Yeah.
Okay.
Community service activities are 300, and that has to do with anything involving the community, when they're invited in for parent-teacher conferences, when there's events, homeless liaison activities will go under there when we're spending money related to the homeless, which we have, money set aside. If there's someone who has been identified and needs anything, then there's funds available, and it's all will be under that category. $411 is a category that it's intergovernmental payments that would go between this academy and, let's say, ISD for something other than for services rendered. So we do have payments that go back and forth where we, the academy system, pays the ISD for services rendered. Those services are included in the category for which they fall. Special ed services payment falls under special ed or the 120s. Anything else that goes IT services, which we get from, the ISD, would fall under the category for IT services. So that category is there because it was there last year, but there was no budget for it, so you probably won't see much going in there at all going forward. 450 is facilities, acquisition, construction, and improvements. Once we start working with the items that need to be repaired or, fixed or whatever, not just regular maintenance stuff, but big ticket items like the roof or at MLK. Once that starts, because then it will go under there, yeah. Now, typically, charter schools, unless you own your building, you won't see a whole lot in there. But because Muskegon Heights is used to be a district, and the buildings are actually owned by Muskegon Heights, but you have jurisdiction of, the whole border, the whole city, then you would see those items because of that.
When you talk about the roof over MLK, but yeah, the ceiling,
not the roof,
the ceiling, the turret, right? And so I'm just wondering, by the academy renting these buildings, shouldn't the district, the owner, take care of the cost?
That's a good question, but anywhere other than here, that would probably be true. But because the academy system rents the buildings for $1, the
costs are on the academy system. And once I can't remember whatever that agreement is, where it's a finite period of time.
Because when that building, came down the second time, I made a comment to district board president to use some ESSER funds to get that building fixed. And then she said, let her talk to John Lewis and they'll get back with you. So if that fall under the PSA board responsibility, then should we have the say in getting it fixed?
You do have the say in getting it fixed. It has to be bidded out in order for it to be done.
That's been like that for going on 2 years.
Right, so.
And when I asked, then I shouldn't have to ask the district board. It should have been brought to this board into a discussion on how we get it repaired, if I'm correct. Because of, like you just said, but in any other district, the owner would repair it, not the rent.
So I guess so it was brought to this board,
Well, we talked about in the first half of it.
But that was what, 2 years ago?
No, yeah, then it came back again last year. It was brought back into discussion again last year. And then they went a discussion between the two district insurance companies. That was a battle between the two insurance, which insurance would pay for to get it repaired. And the crazy thing about it was both districts had the same insurance company.
So I don't know about that. I don't know about all that. What I can tell you, what I can tell you is that. Okay. I don't know. I don't know why nothing moved ahead for 2 years. I know that it has been on Mr. Bland's radar and our operations director's radar. And it was one of the things that happened when we came and did a walkthrough, and it's on the list. And I also know that we've been trying to figure out how it could be paid for. And generally, ESSER dollars are not allowed to be used for repair on a building that you don't own. However, they will allow us to use it because Muskegon Heights is unique in that it was a district that was chartered out. It is not a district. You don't have like still a school district with some charter schools mingled in with it. It is the whole district itself was chartered out, and there are now, based on research and what we've been, looking into, a way that we can have it paid for by ESSER dollars, even though the academy system is leasing the building, because there is a time limit on when the academy system can revert back to the district, right? You know that, right? Well,
So it's not contingent on the 2-year conversation.
Correct.
It's contingent on what your research has.
And what we're doing going forward.
And your request to have that happen.
I'm sorry.
And for your current request to give that attention now.
Right, and we're working through that. So it's on the list. It is something that Mr. Bland even mentioned is a summer project, right? So it unfortunately is going to be that way for the rest of this school year because we can't move as fast as, some people think we should be moving. There are things that have to be done in protocols and laws and a lot of other things that we do have to follow. So there are some things that cannot happen immediately or all at once.
Because there is a bidding process that has to be in place, correct?
Correct. So it's on the radar.
You have George send you what you have on the insurance company dispute. Maybe I can knock around and knock some money loose.
That's not us. That we didn't have anything.
No, I know that. I'm saying if you have the information. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All
Right.
I know it wasn't you guys.
Right, but I didn't know anything about an insurance dispute, so we didn't, there was nothing that he's
That
on
was
right
something
there.
the previous administration had indicated to us for the reason why it wasn't fixed.
Oh, okay.
That's something that they, said at one of our, board meetings, that was an issue. Which would probably led to the bids being, outdated because
Right.
they supposedly had got out these bids, but nothing ever moved forward.
Okay. Okay. The, 490 is prior period adjustments. I don't know where there's a budget there for prior period adjustments. That will go away once we do the revision. I don't expect there to be anything, booked against that, this year. 500 are debt service. That is principal and interest payments on the academy's debt, which is the line of, state aid anticipation note, which is a bridge loan that, gets the academy from, July to October. So that is the debt service on that. There is no other debt besides that. Well, you know. So if we go back to the first page, which I did mention, the revenues. So if you look at the revenues, you'll see that there's not very much there. That is because the state of Michigan pays the school district on a monthly basis for the current fiscal year, but it doesn't start until October. So for July, August, and September, the academy gets no money from the state of Michigan for revenues for this fiscal year. It doesn't start until October. So that's the reason for the bridge loan. And that is where it pays the staff and the salary, the expenses on the academy during those months where there's no revenues coming in from the state of Michigan. There's cash that is generally held over from the previous year, so it's a combination of both that is being spent during those 3 months, because that's the way that the state of Michigan pays, and there's nothing that we can do about that, other than get a bridge loan. So for each month, you'll see that change in that balance. That is going to fluctuate as we go throughout the year, because we have to get caught up with the revenues. The revenues don't come in at the same rate as the expenses. The expenses are monthly, every single month, but state aid is over 11 months, starting in October, and it goes through August of the next year. So there's always going to be a timing difference. And so when you see that net change in fund balance, that is not something to freak out about. What you need to pay attention to, just to make sure that the academy is on target with where it's supposed to be, is your budget to actual. So your budget to actual is how you manage making sure that nothing is being, that we're not overspending. We use the budget to actual to do that. Because the bottom line, there's always going to be a timing difference and a lag, and so it's not going to give you that picture, an accurate picture of where the academy is on a monthly basis.
But that's not unique to the city,
That is every school district in the state of Michigan. Okay, if you go, and next time I will make sure these pages are numbered, but after the executive summary, you have a financial dashboard. So the financial dashboard is another summary with the green on top. It's right after the executive summary. It's got the green on top. That just gives you the total expenditures in a different view. It tells you how much has been spent on salaries and benefits, how much has been spent on program costs, and how much has been spent on operational costs, and then at the bottom, it gives you your bank balance as of October.
Oh, okay.
Now, that is actual physical cash in the bank.
The 1.8? Or the one, oh, I see, never mind. 1.4?
7,
That's as of today?
no, as of October,
Oh, okay.
the end of October, when these financial statements were done.
And that amount will be furnished with money that come in from.
Correct. And it goes down with money that goes out for checks. Okay, the next report is the balance sheet. What I am gonna do is add a different report in there, just so that I can break out the athletic fund as well. It's not on this report, it's all included under general fund. However, this gives you the balance sheet by fund. So the district is, or the academy is required to maintain at minimum these 3 funds. We just break things into a few more funds for ease of reporting and management of the accounting system. So you have your cash, you have due from other funds, which is an internal thing. So at the bottom, you'll have due to other funds. So those things cross, and they should equal each other in the opposite way. That's how we maintain, like, if we're purchasing something for its food service, but we're paying it out of the one bank account, that balances it out for us. That's how we know where the money is going and coming from at any given time. So you will have inter-fund transactions, and those 2 are, when it says due from other fund or due to other fund, that is internally within the Muskegon Heights Public School Academy system. It is not anything that is due to anyone outside of this system. So please be clear on that. Due from other governmental units, that is money that is due to the academy system, typically from the state of Michigan, for state and federal dollars. Sometimes there may be some money due from the ISD, because you do get money from them for certain things. And so that money due from other governmental units is money that is due to the academy that has not yet been collected. It's a receivable.
And typically, when is that collected?
It varies. So we don't really book a whole lot of receivables. We usually have a receivable at the end of the year in June. And then we collect it over time. And in this particular case, when the auditor was talking about a time delay between some of the money that was spent but not yet collected, that's in there and it'll be collected. We did the final expenditure reports. Actually, they're due on the 30th, and so that money will start to come in for that.
Is it based on agreements?
Well, state aid is. I mean, state aid is state aid, right? So we do sometimes record a receivable, and that'll come in, and that's based on the agreement, I guess, if you call that. The other ones is federal grants. Yes, there are agreements to some extent. Yeah, pretty much. We don't have receivables from like other people. You know, we don't have like, you know, customers or anything like that that we will book a receivable for. Generally, if we get money, great. And we book it when we get it, but we don't, you know, try to anticipate if the academy is going to get money from any particular place. So the total assets of the academy by fund, and then you have your liabilities by fund. Accounts payable, that number is going to fluctuate up and down depending on what's going on. In any given month, it's generally about the same. If that number keeps climbing up and up and up, and not kind of like fluctuating from month to month, you know, by, you know, a few, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 either way kind of a thing, then that's an indication that you want to pay attention to, because when your payables are going up, that means that things are not getting paid. And if things are not getting paid, then you have vendors that, you know, are gonna start complaining and pulling out. So that's, when I talk to boards, there's a couple of things that I try to make sure that if you don't, you know, wanna look through everything in this board packet every single month, the treasurer probably would, but the other board members may not. There's a few key things that you want to pay attention to. That would be one of them. I mean, that's, you know, a good indication of cash flow problems. It's an indication of bills not being paid. And so if you know, don't have time and you just want to look at a few key things, that would be a good thing to kind of do. From month, but compare it month over month, just to see if it's in the same ballpark as where it was the previous month. It's not gonna be exact, but it should be, you know, just a little bit here and there. Yeah, so that's just, you know, something to look for. Your short-term note payable, of course, that was the loan that came in from the state of Michigan. And that money went into the bank account. And so it gets paid back out of your state aid payments every month. And it's just an automatic thing. We don't have to do anything to make sure it gets paid. They take their money right off the top. So there's no chance of default. So that number will start to go down every month.
Do you know when?
I'm sorry?
Know when it'll start?
Next month, it'll be lower. So it'll be lower every month going forward. It should be lower. And then it gets paid off fully in August. So it doesn't get paid off, you know, in June. It doesn't get paid off until August because that's the last state aid payment that comes in related to this fiscal year. We talked about due to other funds. If you'll notice, it's the exact same amount as the one up top. Those two net down together, so it's a net zero effect. There's no other long-term liabilities. And then you have deferred revenue, which again is related to federal grant revenue that hasn't come in. So you have the receivable that we know about, and then we have the revenue over here. And so when that money comes in, the receivable will go down, this deferred will go down, so the liability, so it'll kind of, that should go down as well. It's a timing thing. Okay, so at the bottom, you have your fund balance, so your net position. So that number is going to change every month as well. So don't get hung up on what that number is, because as your financial statements and your change in fund balance change, this also changes. So that number is not going to stay the same. It is obviously a negative, but that is because we already know we didn't get any revenues, and we already know that we've been spending money, you know, these 4 months. So that number is reflective of no revenues and expenses that we've had to pay in order to keep the school running. And this is by fund. I will add the athletic fund separate from the general fund, just, you know, so it can be seen. We can do that. We can make a change to the report in order for that to happen. The next page is, again, the statement of expenditures. This format is more in line with what is in your audit report. And so we do this by fund. And I will put so you won't have it on the balance sheet. You won't have an athletic fund on the balance sheet. The only thing on the balance sheet is going to be if the athletic fund owes the general fund money. So the athletic fund don't have any money. They just have expenses. So that's probably all you're going to see on the balance sheet. But on the income statement, you'll be able to see a summary of all of the expenses by fund. And that's what you're seeing here. It's the exact same thing that's on the executive summary. The difference being the executive summary gives you more detail and it's budget to actual. So you can look at that as opposed to this, but this gives it to you by funds. But it's the same data. The bottom line is going to be the same. The next report, again, is budget to actual by function summary for just, well, it's all the funds in there. I like the executive summary just because it tells you what the expenses are. This is, what's required by law, but it really doesn't tell you, like what's included in those numbers. So that's why I include the executive summary as opposed to just this, because it's easier to wrap your mind around. All right, after that is where you see your budget to actual detail. This is the same information, the numbers are the same, it just gives it to you by every single account that we have in the accounting system. It is summarized the exact same way. It doesn't give you anything different other than it breaks that big number down into the smaller buckets. And if you flip back to page
Popcorn, games. If not, let me see.
page 17 starts the athletic expenditures and the accounts associated with that. And as the year goes and we get more information, that will be, on page 17 of the detail.
So you already specified some of the questions in regards to specifics in the athletics. They're already in here.
They should.
The cheerleading, the basketball, boys basketball, coaching.
Yeah,
That's in there.
and that's based off of, what was budgeted already in June and what has been coming through as expenditures from the athletic director. She was just saying that it had been, some of the questions this answered some of the questions. Just to see what is in there in the athletic budget. And so, again, it will be updated, but we haven't started that process yet.
Can we ask a question?
Can you ask a question?
It's dealing with the athletic. We got a game next week. We're having a problem trying to get money to buy food. Every time we have guests come in with the popcorn, they having a problem trying to buy stuff. Can we have some money to buy concession items?
So the answer is yes. However,
We can go through, those are the coordinates right there.
so there's a process that they have to follow in order to do so, and it has to be done in enough time in order for it to get through the whole process that goes all the way back to that whole internal control conversation that the auditor had. So if they don't submit stuff in a timely manner, then it probably won't get done, but it's not because it can't be done. It's just that there's a process and it has to be followed. So there's the purchase, and it starts with the purchase requisition. And typically for athletic, that comes from the athletic director. So if he designates somebody else to do that, then that's fine. But it has to come through that process.
So if she go to Coach Stewart, hey, we're trying to get some money for next week. She's trying to give us some money. Oh, you don't need nothing?
Okay,
Yeah.
So after the detail report, so we can get through this. After the detail report, you have a list of all of the checks that were written during the month. These checks were cut. They have not necessarily been signed and mailed, but they've been cut. And so we can take a look at what those checks are and what.
It's on that's page 18.
It's after page 18 with the green at the top. So it's the check number, the vendor, what it was for generally, and the dollar amount. There are some things that go directly through the bank account. For example, the DTE bill, if it says DTE, it's for utilities, and that was not included on there as a description, but DTE is typically utilities. And so that's, you have that. And I believe that is it for the monthly financial packet. And this is what you will get every month unless something else is requested. I am going to make a few changes to some of the reports. Obviously, I'm going to edit the template that we're using. And I'm going to add in a separate column for food services. I'm sorry, not food services, athletics. Is there anything else as it relates to the financial information?
Are there any vendors that are requesting payment? Are we in default anywhere as far as payment?
Not yet. However, I can tell you that for those vendors who provide services, i.e. food services, janitorial services, special ed services, at some point they are going to stop providing services if we don't.
Stop providing.
So.
Have you got any kind of correspondence to that?
I have not, no, I have not. If they don't get paid, yeah, that's kind of how that works. Well, the checks haven't been signed, that's all I can tell you.
You want to keep it present.
So I would, if nothing else, I would ask that the service invoices get paid, because if the service invoices don't get paid and someone stops providing services, then that's gonna be a problem. And so.
I think this was extremely helpful.
That is our last,
I move that the meeting be adjourned.
any comments from the board? Apple to adjourn.
There you go.
At 9:40.